Welcome back to it's the weekend Friday preview. Ari Hougaard and I, every Monday, every Friday, we do a bit of a wrap on Mondays, a bit of a preview on a Friday. And Ari, last weekend was a dud and a dull one, but this week is the exact opposite. So much so that we're not even going to talk about the Currie Cup. There's no time for it. Welcome back, and let's just jump straight into it. Stormers versus the All Blacks, first time in 50 years.
Yeah, it's a big evening in Cape Town, and it's the weather played along, so it will be a nice evening. Will be cooler, so the weather is going to be a factor. So it's been a talk in town as well. We've talked about it previous games of the URC that the Stormers played there 7 p.m. in the evenings. So it's sometimes a bit misty and a bit foggy and a bit dew on the grass, etc. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. Might play into the hands of the Stormers a little bit. I think they're more settled in the scrums a little bit, and the All Blacks surely want to play and impress. But yeah, it's a big day. So there's been lots of talk in Cape Town. Cape Town a bit split. I've been listening to many radio shows and in the radio and on television, and so obviously it's well documented. Good reception for the Stormers in Cape Town with all the All Black supporters. Interesting enough, we know Cape Town Stadium. There's about 2-3 blocks that was occupied there, but the crowd grew from 1,500 to 3,000. And now I hear the New Zealand pundits talking about 5,000 people that was there. So it keeps on growing. So it's nice to see. It's like a fish you caught in 1970. Becomes bigger and bigger. But anyway, it's but the reality is there's big support for the All Blacks. It's nice. We can embrace it tonight. I'll be there as well, and then it's nice and challenging. It's nice for Cape Town. So yes, there's thorns and roses. The roses we know. The thorns are, like you mentioned. I think you mentioned as well, like as we spoke before we went on air, is that it's in the pre-season for the URC that starts in 5-6 weeks, and so that's disruptive. And obviously, I would love to see the Stormers play, and the Bulls and the Lions and the Sharks play the All Blacks with their best 23 possible. That would be fun with a full stadium and a big vibe. That's not going to happen. That happened in 1976. So we all missed that in 1976 when the Bulls and the Western Province beat the All Blacks. So that was quite a big year. And they played with their full strength teams. All those heroes, Cape Town heroes like Robbie Blair that kicked that conversion from the touchline, Chris Pope. Also Peter Whip and Bossy Clark, all those names, Morné du Plessis. So that was Boelan Coetzee. That was a big 1976 one with all the stars. If it was played in that same sequence now, you wouldn't have seen Boelan Coetzee and Morné du Plessis and all that Peter Whip and all of them and Robbie Blair probably playing against them. But anyway, we're ready for this Friday. And one nice thing, I'll just close with that. See the newspaper today. We still have, it's nice to have the Die Burger Afrikaans newspaper every morning that we can get that. And this morning's Die Burger, we can put up the picture. It's nice, a picture of the two fly-offs. We're going to discuss that. But interestingly enough, it was Bossy Clark and Peter Whip that I discussed now. John Dobson got them to hand over the jerseys, which was quite a nice touch. They played in the 76 game, that one. But just have a look at this photo because it's evident that the centres of 2026 look to be quite taller and bigger than the centres of 1976. But I know as you get older, you get a little bit smaller. Even Flick de Pre looks smaller these days. But you can see Jonathan Roche, it's him standing there next to Peter Whip and Bossy Clark. So he's like, looks like a lock next to them. But anyway, so it's exciting. Cape Town is ready, and we'll see what happens, Stormers, All Blacks.
Yeah, of course, the Stormers have never played the All Blacks. Western Province has played the All Blacks 5 times before this one, of which they won 2. That just, because people are going to say, I know they're going to pick up, you didn't, it's not the Stormers, it was the Western Province. Thank you, we know, thank you, we just put the record straight here. You raised an interesting point there, and that is the fact, I'm a little doubtful about what the benefit of this game is. I mean, I spoke to some of the other franchise coaches, and everybody said, yes, it's a fantastic thing in terms of tradition and everything else, but it's so disruptive for the preseason, for the URC build-up and everything. You have to accelerate your conditioning because the players can't run into the field and they're not fit. They haven't played in a bit together, played together in a bit, and of course the All Blacks going to read so much into this team. Yeah, Stormers ended 4th on the log, and the Bulls ended 2nd on the log, and they played in the final and everything. Look how comfortably the All Blacks beat them, but it's not the same thing. It's not apples with apples. It's not our best teams, and I'm not making excuses. It's like the Springboks arriving in New Zealand right now and playing against the Hurricanes. It's not exactly the same thing because the Hurricanes can't pick their best players because they're all in the All Black squad. You know where I'm going with this. So, compare apples with apples. What's the benefit of this? Apart from money, it clearly is going to be a money spinner, hopefully. I'm sure how the ticket sales are going. Probably in Cape Town is going to be close to a sold-out stadium. I'm not so sure about the rest of the country. What do you think? Are we going to pay the price for this interruption in our URC preseason late in the season, and we're all going to say, we should never have done that. Now the Stormers and the Bulls and everybody's fallen by the wayside because they had to go play the All Blacks.
Yeah, no, I think there's lots to talk about there. I think there will be a price to pay, but there's going to be a gain as well. I think there's going to be a price to pay with breaking the momentum of the preseason. John Dobson did allude to that, and that they have a little bit of a different preseason kind of program now. There was a big focus on winning a game on Friday evening, so that's a big focus. So what you lose in terms of momentum and what you would have done, and players not maybe playing there, etc., you'll gain with experience, hopefully, and their whole experience to play against them. You don't want it to be lopsided as well. So that's a challenge when you don't have all your Springboks playing. So I think that's also the challenge. If it would be a lot different if you had De Villiers, and you can name all the let's say Dixon and Sasha and Willems or whatever. So all of them playing for a full strength team. It's a lot different to what it is going to be now. Looking back at 2021, the Lions towards South Africa, it's not maybe 100% comparable, but the Stormers lost 49-3, but they had like 8 players they lost because of COVID in the week leading up. The Bulls didn't even play. They had to play the Sharks twice because of COVID. So it was very disruptive. But what is a little bit comparable is 49-3 that when the Lions beat the Stormers. So you don't want it to be a mismatch as well. We would hope and think that the Stormers will be competitive, but you will also think it's something like 563 or 64 caps that's in that team, the All Black team, test caps. In the 15, there's another 85 on the bench. So that speaks very loudly. There's a spattering of Springbok experience from Gelant through to in the front row, and with Andre Hugo Venter, Dion Fourie, etc. But it's like 3 or 4 or 5 of them. So it's going to be a challenge. So but I think what happened, just to close on that, I think it was discussed in a boardroom a while ago, and the idea sounds good. And I think the discussion in the boardroom was, let's emulate what happened in 1976 and the good old days when we had these tours, play the franchises. Good idea. So, okay, and then it was agreed upon, and now you need to look at the practical. And it's not perfect to play 3 games in 7-8 days. That's what's happening now. It's a Friday game, a Tuesday game, and a Saturday game. 3 of them just out of the way quickly like that, without blinking. So it's not perfect for the All Blacks as well. They will have the experiences, but they kind of looking at 22nd of August. They're going to play against players that's looking at the present, and I just want to play myself into contention somewhere. So that's also something we must look at. So but the All Blacks can't play not to avoid the injuries as well. So then you really get injured. So it's going to be, I think it's very competitive, but I think the All Blacks will be the favourites purely because of all the experience they have, and they've got some excellent players there. So yes, I think there's stuff to gain. There's some that will be challenged, but overall I feel that there's more to gain, and we'll see. Maybe tonight even, I think maybe the pavilion or the representation of support will be more 50-50 than ever. Lots of support for the All Blacks.
Still an odd mix for a home game. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like with all the support the All Blacks do have in Cape Town. It's difficult to say how it will look in the pavilion, but I think there's going to be a lot of support for them. That's obvious. That's evident. Yeah.
Okay, Ari, we've got the teams on the screen. Yes, people can have a look at the Stormers and the All Blacks. For me, the standout story, of course, is the 20-year-old Yakin Ahmed making his debut for the Stormers against 144 Test cap Beauden Barrett. And we saw the other day he was 5 years old when Beauden Barrett made his debut for the Hurricanes. He was 9 years old when Beauden Barrett lifted the World Cup in 2015. This is a big ask, no matter how talented you are. We did a video earlier this week in our lunch break section that said, Yakin Ahmed being, is he up to it? Is he being thrown to the wolves? Lots of people saying if you're old enough, you're good enough. Yeah, it might be. But, this is a big ask, I would think. What's your expectations of this matchup between Ahmed and Barrett?
Yeah, it's nice to see, and it will be worth quite a lot for Ahmed, of course. But he's young and inexperienced, so it will depend like 90% on the type of possession he gets and the type of ball he gets as well, how he plays and how he handles the situation. I think it can be an evening that is basically just trying to defend and being on the back foot. It can be a day where the Stormers get surprisingly good ball and good momentum and front foot ball, and he can play. But it's all dependent on what's happening up front. front. We talked earlier in the week about way back when Dave van Ooselen and Gaffie de Tooy had that difficult game against the All Blacks, and that came from pressure from not getting good ball. And so that's a risk for this evening for the Stormers as well. So yes, great opportunity. He's a great player. He showed that he can play. He's got good players around him, but also he's 12. Jonathan Roche is also a little bit inexperienced. Imad Khan is inexperienced, so it's a young team. That is a challenge. I think just in terms of set phases, I'll just close on that. Set phases, I think the Stormers are actually not too bad because they have good scrum. They have a good scrum. They've got good props. Although they have two props that's at the Springboks, they still have a good front row. They have Neetling Forshey that played Springbok, Andre Juventa, Werner Matongo, very, very good loose set, and then you have Mchunu that can come off the bench, and also Sazi Sandi. So I think in the scrums they can probably handle themselves. What I'm concerned about, not want to talk too much about players, but the Stormers will definitely miss two big players in lock, and they miss Ruben van Heerden that's gone. They miss JD Schikkeling that's injured. Now it's Connor Evans that comes into play, and he's not been the preferred lock. He's a little bit smaller as well, so they lose a little bit of weight there as well. And then my biggest concern is that if you look at the reserves, it is kind of Ruan Ackerman that's kind of bracketed to play lock if something goes wrong. I haven't seen him play lock a lot or even once. So that's maybe the concern that I have. Kiki Murabi can't play lock, and Wandile Malabu, maybe he's bigger. He's 191. He's a bigger player. Maybe he can also play lock. They would have addressed that. But I think that's one area that's a little bit under pressure maybe. And I mean, you've got Fabian Holland and Patrick Tiopolopo that's coming in locks for the All Blacks, and all many other names that you can mention as well. Ethan Blackadder, Sam Derry, all experienced players that's just going to keep on coming. So it's going to be tough to get your ball. So I've made a full circle now. Yes, Yakin Ahmed, very exciting, very talented, but it's going to depend on what ball he gets.
Yeah, we started at the flaws and we ended at the locks on the bench. Well done, Ari.
Full circle.
Let's just talk about the seniors. We talked about the juniors now. The seniors, Deon Fourie and Dewald Dievenage now said this is going to be his last game, I see. I mean, it's an apt way to end your career, I suppose, because he's going to be involved in the coaching side of things as well. But, a nice send-off as well. Deon Fourie into his 40s now, another long-term injury, just overcame playing against the All Blacks. He wants to go out on his own terms. Just briefly, what do you see for Deon Fourie in this, in the very near future, short term?
Yeah, I mean, you can only play that much, and he looked after himself well. And every time he had a big injury, he came back very impressively. So he's still fit and he's eager to go. I did speak to him briefly a week or two ago there on the pavilion, and he looked ready for action. I think he's just very glad to see JJ Kotze's name on the reserve bank, that he's not the backup to play hooker again against the All Blacks. So I think that's the one benefit of that. So he'll definitely play flank. There's enough cover to play number 2. And he offers a lot. I think his voice in the change room, MV, is mostly going to be beneficial for the Stormers. What he's doing on the field, we know he'll be eager. He'll be contesting. He'll go for the slow their ball and try and contest and get ball back. So he's played against the All Blacks, so that's special. Not sure his fitness and his game readiness. He was out for quite a while. We also have Diamani on the other flank, and then Evan Roos. He's probably fit and ready. He played quite a few tests as well. So it's a bit of a combination there. Exciting players that can come off the bench, but great to see that opportunity. And Dewald Dievenage as well. Yes, he's been bracketed to be the number 10 backup as well. That's what John Dobson said. They're also a bit thin there, but they went 6-2. I think they do realize that there's going to be a big challenge up front. So there's only Dievenage and Simelane that's on the reserves, as you can see. So, but great for Dievenage. He played quite a bit for the Stormers, obviously played a bit in Italy as well, but good for him to get that opportunity as well. They had Ungere that could have played. I think if they played a semi-final of the URC, and there wasn't Currie Cup. They're running 2 campaigns. So Dobson did allude to that. They're playing on Sunday. They play against the Cheetahs. So they have Jean-Luc Duplessis and Stefan Ungere playing as the combination there. Ungara captain. So they didn't want to pull Ungara from the Currie Cup team as well. They're trying to kind of still fight for the Currie Cup as well as best as possible. So that is the challenge they have at the moment. One Stormers team playing on Friday, one Stormers team playing on Sunday. So that's maybe part of what you said earlier, is this really fitting in. So it is a disruption, but Cape Town is trying to make the best of it.
Let's just talk about the All Blacks quickly. They've lost one player, Hooker George Bell, going home already with a calf strain. Uncapped player Rushton, and then Wallace Titi ruled out yesterday, short notice after the team was announced with illness apparently, and then they had to reshuffle Anton Segner, the German, coming in at 7, and Peter Lakai being moved over to 8. Now that's a 3 disruptions already. 2 of them on the in the game day squad. That's probably par for the course for a tour like this. I mean, it's just the beginning. But do you know, would that have been any disruption, do you think, for the All Blacks? Or was it, taking this right kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's enough depth to address that. I think they could move things around. Segner is a young player from Germany. Now they've got the German and the Dutchman there together with the Tongans and Fijians, and truly international team seems like at the moment. But that's quality players still. I don't think disruption is too bad. Injuries you're going to get, and they're going to get more of that. It's going to be physical, and there's lots of games to be played. So yes, I think it's in terms of number 8, Peter Lakai can play there. So I don't think it's too bad for them in that regard. But that will be the test for the All Blacks, is how to get through this tour with this many games, and so injuries will be part in this 4th test. I think Rassie Erasmus put it into context. He was comparing it to the World Cup. I mean, you have got round robin games weekend to weekend, and still you get to quarterfinals and trying to see who's standing in the World Cups, and it's week to week, and there's knocks and things happen, etc. Now there's lots more games pushed in. It's 8 games in 6 weeks, so that's going to be a challenge for the All Blacks. We hope for them that they can stay healthy, but you would think there will be knocks and injuries here and there. Hopefully not to key players, and they will probably protect some of the key players like Roygaard leading up to the 22nd of August. Probably give him one game somewhere. Probably at Loftus, I would think, on the 15th, or maybe even on Tuesday evening. But I think he would play at Loftus a week before the test, testing out, and maybe just play 50, 60 minutes. But there's some key players that they need on the 22nd of August, and need for all 4 tests, like the Springboks. So it's similar.
Just quickly, I see Jason Ryan, the assistant coach, said they're going to use heavy rotation against the first 3 OC matches. The game against the Stormers. And this is a bit of a needle here, a bit of a zinger. A game against the SRC. Oh, my word. And then a game against the Bulls. Sorry, just on that SRC, I don't want to digress. We're running out of time here. But what on earth were they thinking? I mean, really? Yeah, that Sharks rebrand.
It's funny. Yeah, I had the same idea. I heard your lunchtime chat on that, and that was brilliant. And I think everybody is watching that study will immediately go to a student representative council. Yeah. That was at RSC. But anyway, that it will be interesting how it goes. But that's just the logo, so there will still be the Sharks. There will be enough Sharks on the shirt to know that.
There's no shark on the shirt. There's no shark on the shirt.
On the pants. Is it just on the pants? I saw it.
Yeah, maybe, but not on the shirt. The shirt just says SRC. But anyway, we need to discuss this next week in a bit more depth.
Nothing on the back.
Not that I could see, but anyway, I might be wrong. But the point is, you buy your supporters jersey and it says SRC in Reebok. So what does that mean? Nobody knows you're supporting the Sharks. I mean, sorry, I digress. We're running out of time here. Just quickly, what are you expecting from the All Blacks? What are they going to show us here? Or is it literally just going to be a warm-up for them, do you think?
No, they need to make a statement, and they're serious to make a statement. And they've got a good team. They will always have a very, very good team. And the players that they selected, I'm looking forward to see that backline. I mean, it's Bowden Barrett at 10. We know what he can do. Ihani again on the wing. Leonard Brown and Billy Proctor in the centres. Carter, exciting wing, probably first choice on the wing as well. Mubi that played the last game on the wing plays fullback. Exciting. They will run the Stormers. They will be impressive. And I think if they get front foot ball, they would want to make a statement, and they will want to come to South Africa. They would want to challenge the collisions. They would want to show that they can challenge the Stormers in the scrums, take them on in the physical battles, handle the pressure on defence, the the more rust pressure that they will get in South Africa. So they would want to make a statement. I expect them to come out and play a good game. Like I said right in the beginning, it depends on the weather. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff time, just past 7, 10 past 10. It's wind is just 13 kilometers. It's 14 degrees. It's going to be cold and cool. So often that time in the evening, just on sunset, there's not mist, but there's like a foggy. There's a little bit of dew and stuff. That stadium is 200 meters from the coastline. So that's a factor. We've seen many games, 7 p.m. games. So that might not help them. There might be a little bit more scrums and a few mistakes, but also expect the Stormers to come out blazing for what they had on the field. That will happen in Johannesburg and Pretoria and Durban as well. They've got lots of pride to play for as well. What better opportunity to play the All Blacks? So they'll be ready. They will play as good as they can. Hopefully for the Stormers, there's also not too many injuries. So that might be a bit of a war sometimes. But hopefully it's competitive enough. There's always a fear that we don't want to be too negative, that it can be one-sided. But I think the Stormers will be up for it. But you would think that the All Blacks would win this game quite comfortably.
All right. I just have to do my homework quickly. Paul has been rapping me over the knuckles because I don't do my homework, and this is the homework. People, please remember to like and subscribe to this channel. And if you're not, just check that you are subscribed. Often you think you are and you're not. It helps us a lot. It helps us with the algorithm. And if you like this video, please share it from YouTube to WhatsApp or wherever you want to send it to your friends. Talking of WhatsApp, we have a WhatsApp channel that, if I remember, I update people on the WhatsApp channel as well. And just remember, on this channel, this is the channel to keep an eye on if you want a proper coverage of the Greatest Rivalry Tour. We have everybody from Harry Jones to Ben Herring to Andre Pretorius to Hugh Griffin to 2 Cents, who's going to make an appearance on our channel very soon. So watch out for all of that. Martin Devlin every week coming as well. And also, people, please remember, our Megaphone Clubhouse. We asked last week for 10 volunteers. I got volunteers. I sent them all a message on the comments, and only 3 of you responded. So we need more people to please send us your emails. Send me an email. I'm going to put the email address at the bottom there. It's megaphonesport@gmail.com, and tell me that you want to be part of the Clubhouse trial run. We want to get the thing off the ground. We're running out of time here. So yeah, that's my homework out of the way. Sorry, Ari, let's just move on to the Springboks quickly. And I think I answered my earlier question about, does this URC team against the All Blacks have any relevance? Because we just spent 25 minutes talking about them, and we're now going to squeeze the Springboks into 10 minutes. That puts it into context, I suppose, you know. How important is this game against Argentina, really? Rassie actually took the mic and to make a point that it is important that we're disrespecting the Argentinians, but, you know, about asking questions about the All Blacks. How important is this match, do you think, for Rassie? You know, what does he want to take from this game? What does he want to see, and what does he not want to see at any costs?
Yeah, it's a very important building block leading up to the 22nd of August, and it's lots of reasons. Obviously, firstly, you want to win, and he alluded to that, so you need to win. But we know in the background, it's about getting experienced players through. So from this game, the big thing is 4 very experienced players, 5, 6 of them maybe, but 4 of them at least definitely need to come through for him to be able to consider them for the 22nd of August. So if they're not going to come through and they don't play well, I'm not sure if he's going to consider them for the 22nd of August, because he's got enough players that he blooded. The challenge for us, for the Springboks, is mainly at lock at the moment, because we know that all the injuries we have, the Springboks do have. So it's important that Eben Etzebeth and Ludo de Jager. So that's the 2 that's very important. Siya Kolisi, another one, haven't played much, and then Sasha is the other one. That's the 4 that I'm thinking just off the head. There's a few others as well, but those are the main ones. So hopefully they will come through it and play well and don't have injuries as well. But lots for him to gain, and there's lots to lose in the game as well. You don't want more injuries to key players, but also you want them to show that they're ready for that game. So obviously there's been training, there's been simulations, there's been hard training for them. I think they're used to the bumps and bruises, bumps a little bit in practice, but it's different to play a test game. So lots for him to look out for. But for me, it's those players coming back.
You know, there's a movie that was called Last Tango in Paris, and I made the allusion to maybe this is the last tango in Buenos Aires for a guy like Ludo de Jager. You know, injured, only played 1 game for his club this entire season, and you know, stretching him to get to the World Cup final or to get to the World Cup next year, it's going to be a tough one. Even Eben Etzebeth, maybe to a degree, hasn't played. He was banned for a long time, then came back, got injured again, and not much game time. I can't really see how 1 game against Argentina is really going to, shake off all the shackles and, shake off all the rust kind of a thing. Do you think it's going to really work? And I'm worried about the cohesion in that first test. Is this enough for them to get back to game fitness.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's enough as well. It hopefully is enough, but we're missing important players. If Erkje Snyman was in the mix and fit, it would be a different discussion, for instance. But he's not there. Murat maybe as well. But there's like Ali Williams and Brodie Retallick. If you think about the All Blacks, they could play up to a certain time, and then all of a sudden they also kind of battled to maintain what they were, and they kind of went to Europe and to Japan. So it's in that category, but I think the injuries forced his hand a little bit. So he would love experienced player like Eben Etzebeth and Louet to be there and do what they can do. So it's going to be extremely competitive on the 22nd of August. So it's they need to be 100% plus. So you can't have somebody that's kind of there and you want them to be there for the first half, first 15 minutes or 50 minutes, and then somebody else comes on. So yeah, it is not a perfect situation, but I agree with you. The doubt is one game of good 40, 50 minutes going to be enough for them to be in the starting 23 for the 22nd of August, maybe on the bench, but what's your options? So you know that Nortje will be there, or Nortje can be there. Who's the other ones? You're looking at Wiese and those players, it was Wiese that played well as well. So that's your backup. So you would think that Nortje, Louet and Eben probably going to be in the mix there with Ben Jason Dixon, kind of a backup. And then obviously Pieter-Steph du Toit was a backup as well. So he is a backup to play also lock, and they've tried him there quite a bit. So there's options. But for the Springboks to win on the 22nd of August, if you look at that, you need a Louet and a Eben that can play like Louet and Eben played 5 years ago. So I don't know if that's going to happen in one game.
The Springboks have only won 4 from the last 7 against the Argentinians. So I understand that's probably why Rassie is getting so worked up about, people asking questions about the All Blacks. Maybe we're disrespecting them. But I want to just briefly talk about the Argentinians. They seem to have a bit of a discipline problem. We just heard yesterday actually, that Thomas Albanose has now been banned for 4 matches after pushing the referee, touching the referee. We know that's a no. You don't go there. And was suitably apologetic, and he's going to apologize to everybody, and his mother and his grandmother, right up to the ancestors, I suppose. But the point is, you should never have done that. The team itself hasn't been penalized or anything like that. But the point is, Felipe Contraponi was storming out of a press conference. I just get a feeling there's a bit of a thing in Argentina at the moment, like they're a little bit ill-disciplined almost, sort of fraying at the edges. Maybe I'm imagining it. I'd love to see what happens this weekend if they're more disciplined, and because if they're going to lose this game if the discipline is not there.
Yeah, I think it kind of all of a sudden got more attention with the Soccer World Cup, strangely enough, with all that happened there with Argentina, and they became the team that everybody didn't want to support in the Soccer World Cup, and that was also because of discipline and funny things that happened. They've got a little bit of a reputation there, but we remember we've had lots of battles with them, and it's always been physical, etc. But I don't think they will go out against the Springboks to make it like a dirty game. I don't think so. There was most of the games that was quite competitive and not in that atmosphere. The English game kind of boiled over quite a bit with that last decision in the corner as well. So there was other factors, and any time when Pollock is on the field, there's going to be blood boiling. So I think they didn't handle that too well as well, and they're not the first team that didn't handle that well. So I think it will be okay. I don't think it will be a niggly game. I think it will be a competitive game. They will respect it, and I think they've played enough against South Africa the past few years to respect that. So I think it would be okay. But yes, it's tough to play there. So that stats show that, and they've got a good team that they're going to play. So South Africa shouldn't look too much at 22nd of August, and that's why Rassie kept on going back to that in the news conferences. Every time people or players, and you could see that Sasha was on the same page, the questions he got about the All Blacks, he quickly batted back and then just said, let's just focus on Saturday, then we'll talk about the All Blacks. So they're focused. They know it's going to be tough. They need to play this professionally, come through that play and win and impress, and then you can move on. So, but I think it would be okay. I don't think there will be lots of niggle. There's no history between the two teams that suggests it will be like that.
Just briefly in closing, yesterday SA Rugby and the SA Players Association, SARPA, announced a new deal for the next 12 months, which supposedly gives them more rest and 7 weeks and leave and everything else. I'm going to talk about that on today's lunch break. Watch out for that one. But Rassie also mentioned, which was interesting to me, he mentioned in a press conference the need for players to not burn out. He's very worried about burnout as a potential problem, and he specifically mentioned the Rugby Championship maybe moving to the Six Nations. Now I'm seeing a pattern emerging here. Maybe I'm imagining it, but Rassie mentioning SA Rugby saying they're reviewing all competitions in July. Remember they were going to do that, and initially we thought they're going to pull out of the Champions Cup, which they're not going to do. And now this deal being announced, that I think it's all playing together. I think South Africa is going to try and force New Zealand's hand to move the Rugby Championship, and Australia's hand for that matter. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it seems like it goes to that, and they've got the stats to prove it. And I think the reality is that it's tough on the bodies. But I think the problem that we're going to continuously have is just where South Africa is on this map in the world, and where New Zealand is, and where Australia is, and where Europe is. So that's just massive distances from each other, and then you throw in Argentina as well. So I think logistically, you just sit with this whole big problem. How do you manage all of that? And that's why some of the Nations Championship was a bit of a joke with so-called home games for Japan and Fiji that was nowhere close to their home game. It was played in Liverpool for Fiji, for instance, against England. So apologies. So it is, they're trying to fix it, but I think the answer would be to have this global window where everybody plays Test rugby during the Six Nations time would be obvious. They already play there. It's their summer. So we'll see how that. I see the merit in that, but New Zealand and Australia need to agree on that. I think they have a problem, and they Savia now. I don't want to go to that quickly. Sorry, everybody says that he's been playing for 12, 18 months and too much rugby, etc. And that's exactly that, to the extent that he didn't even come over as a captain for the first few weeks. That just shows the extent of the challenges that the players do have, that the player actually is forced or asked to say, listen, I need time. So he was probably saying to them, listen, I'm on the plane, I'm fine. But the coaches said, listen, here's the stats, you've played too much. I think that just proves your point. So I think they'll realign that. Hopefully they will find each other in the boardrooms. But it's not fair on the players. They play too much. And that's why South African players kind of find a softer kind of, it's not very soft, it's just softer to play in Japan. It's less games, and intensity is not that high. So it's I think the stat that came out now, there's not one single South African player, I think, playing in the English Premier League that's currently in the Springbok squad. It was Thomas du Toit, and he was with Bath, and he's now back in South Africa. There's a spattering that plays in the USC, but and a little bit in France. I'm not even sure about France, but definitely in England, there's none of those 44 players that currently or will be in the new season playing in England. So they've moved away from that. So they tend to go to Japan. Yeah,
it would have been JJ van der Merwe if he was in the squad, but he's not. But that's the only one. Yeah, you're right. And I think the only Springbok in France will be Ruben van Heerden, who's now actually just going to France. So that's an interesting one. That's good. Okay, Ari, I have to let you go. Just briefly, your prediction for this game. Can the Springboks pull it off, or can Argentina cause an upset?
No, I think the Springboks can win it, so it will be competitive again, being in Argentina. So it's not going to be on the plate. It's going to be, you need to work hard for that. That's what Rassie wants. He wants Eben and Loot and Sia to be challenged, Sasha to be challenged. They need to emulate what's going to happen on the 22nd of August to really to see what they can do. So my prediction would be the Springboks winning, but it's not going to be 50-20. I think it's going to be competitive. Hopefully they can win by something like 32-22 or something. But I think they will win it.
Just in closing, Harry Jones and I will do an immediate reaction after the Stormers versus All Blacks match, and we'll also do an immediate reaction after the Springboks Argentina match. And we're also doing live Afrikaans commentary on our Rockford Rugby Afrikaans channel on the Stormers All Blacks game. So watch out for that. Always nice to talk to you, Ari. I'll let you go now. Thank you. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday.
Yes, all the best. And looking forward to the rest of the big All Black tour. And have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Yeah, awesome.